Turn your workbooks to page 5, titled Consider the Consequences, and we're going to read different scenarios of Janet and Jose, and list possible consequences of both. Janet was flipping through a magazine in a convenience store when a customer came in to pay for $20 worth of gas. The clerk turned his back to answer the phone. The customer checked his watch, tossed a $20 bill on the counter, and rushed out the door. When Janet saw that the clerk wasn't paying attention, she grabbed the money and stuffed it in her pocket. Janet acted impulsively. She did not stop to think about the consequences of her action. What are the possible consequences of her decision? In the following scenario, we're going to learn about the negative consequences of Janet's impulsive behaviors and actions. The clerk said, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Janet replied, "Wait, sorry, take the money back. Just don't tell my parents, or I'll be in so much trouble." The clerk replied, "Well, you should have thought about that before you took the money." The clerk called Janet's dad to come to the convenience store. Janet knew she was in very big trouble. "Janet, I'm so disappointed. I spoke to the store clerk and he agreed to not press charges if you work on a community service project every Saturday for the next 3 months. I'm also grounding you for the next 3 months." Janet replied, "Every Saturday? What about softball practice?" Janet's dad replied, "You should have thought about that before you took the money." The next day, Janet talked to her coach. "Coach, I won't be able to practice on Saturdays anymore for 3 months. I got in really big trouble for stealing, and I have to do community service every weekend." "Janet, you're going to have to quit the team." "But coach, I'm the team captain." "You were the team captain, Janet. You're one of our best players, but you know the rules. Everyone on the team has to come to practice. If you can't come to practice on Saturdays, you're off the team." "But softball is my favorite sport." "Well, you should have thought about that before you stole that money, Janet." "Who would have thought that taking $20 would mean that I couldn't play my favorite sport?" So many of you have thought about the consequences of Janet's decisions. What were some possible consequences that you did not think of? So, Janet got kicked off the softball team and lost her Saturdays for 3 months for her impulsive decision of taking that $20. Who knew that those could be possible consequences of stealing the $20 and acting impulsively? So, oftentimes, impulsive behavior has consequences that are unforeseen. And it's always best to stop, think, act, and reflect on the best possible decisions. Jose was hanging out with his friends in the school cafeteria. A couple of them were talking about tomorrow's science test and how easy it would be to cheat. Then one of them pulled out a copy of the answer sheet from his backpack and passed it to Jose. Jose looked over the answer sheet and immediately started memorizing the answers. Jose did not stop to think about the consequences of his decisions. What are the consequences of impulsive behavior? Now, let's look at the real-life consequences of the scenario for Jose. The resource officer replied, "Stop right there. You'll have to come with me. Cheating is against the school rules." Jose replied, "But I didn't do anything. This isn't mine. I didn't steal the answer sheet." The resource officer said, "You are holding it in your hands and looking at the answers." Jose said, "But they just handed it to me. I didn't even think about what I was doing." The resource officer replied, "You didn't think at all. You should have thought about what to do as your peers started talking about cheating. I even heard them. Come on, let's go." The school's resource officer took the group to the principal's office. The principal said, "I'm going to have to call your parents. You will be suspended from school for 2 weeks, and you will receive zeros on any work you miss." Jose said, "But I have A's and B's in all of my classes. What about my grades?" The principal replied, "You should have thought about that before." That night, Jose called his best friend. The best friend said, Jose, everyone at school's been talking about what you did. My mom found out and says I can't hang out with you anymore. She says you are a bad influence. Jose said, they just handed me the answer sheet. I didn't even have time to think. Jose's best friend said, well, you should have thought about it. My mom's coming. I have to go. Jose replied, who would have thought that just picking up a piece of paper without stopping to think about it, I would be suspended from school and lose my best friend. Who can name a consequence of Jose's impulsive behavior? What are the possible consequences of Jose's impulsive behavior? Why? He got suspended from school. His grades are going to get hurt by having zeros on all of his tests. And he lost his best friend because his mother thinks Jose is a bad influence. So those are some consequences of Jose's impulsive behavior. So, thinking back to the decision-making poster, Jose did not think. Jose did not think about the negative consequences associated with getting handed or talking about cheating. And for that reason, Jose did not think about what he should have done differently. When talk of cheating was occurring among his peers, Jose should have just left. Janet and Jose had to deal with the negative consequences of their impulsive behavior, and they were significant. When we act impulsively, that leaves room for many negative, unforeseen consequences to occur. If Jose and Janet stopped and thought about their actions, they could have avoided all that together. So it's important to stop, think, act, and reflect appropriately on the best decisions now and in the future.